This is DRF Race of the Day. Dan Illman, Mike Beer, the feature race at Aqueduct on Sunday. Race number 8 for newly turned 3-year-old New York breds. Let's throw up the field for the Rego Park Stakes. We're going 6.5 furlongs. We've got a solid field of 9 in here. The 2G Munning was bet hard for his career debut into favoritism. He was a solid winner with a 79 buyer speed figure. Now he steps up in class and might face a sterner pace test. That could be key for G Munning.
Yeah, that was the biggest concern I had with him. He ran very well first time out, and he got a figure for that win after taking a ton of money in that race. They're going to go faster early in this race, Dando, so we'll see if he can stand up to it.
And it's a perfect segue for our Timeform US pace projector. We see G Munning is expected to make the lead, but note the red bar. That means he's going to have to go fast in order to do so. And when you look in your formulator past performances, you'll note the Timeform US pace ratings for his last race, blue colored. That is slow. So it's going to be a completely different situation. He was impressive in his debut. He beat a nice horse. The question is, how low do you want to go? He's 8-5 on the morning line.
Yeah, he's a clear-cut favorite on the morning line. He's going to face more pace pressure here. But listen, there's obviously a real chance that he's just better than these horses.
Always charming, the number 1, wouldn't mind a little bit of pace. He got it in his second lifetime start when trainer Cleveland Johnson dropped him into a $40,000 maiden cellar. Let's watch Always Charming in his second lifetime start, and he improved. We see him on the outside. He's going to grind past these horses. I just didn't think much of this field, Mike. This is a big step up in class.
Yeah, he feels like he's probably just biting off a little more than he can chew here, stepping into a stakes race. He runs fine in there, and he did improve from start 1 to start number 2 here. He got a perfect trip in this race, and he wins fairly easily at the end, but he's just taking a huge step up in class now.
The 2G Munning, a New York bred, perhaps in name only. He's by Munnings. He sold for $275,000 as a 2-year-old in training. And we'll watch his debut. He took a pretty good bump at the start of this race. He ended up making the front. He was able to get a nice breather on the turn while clear. But this is a solid horse on the outside, Bold Journey, that's coming up to confront G Munning. They're going to go shoulder to shoulder at about the 8th pole. And then G Munning gets away again, the final 16th. The runner-up would come back to win easily with an 84 buyer.
Yeah, it feels like he beat a good horse in here. It was an interesting race too, then, because they were, the 2 first-time starters in here, and they were the 2 favorites in the race as well. So they were both expected to run, and they both ran. It was a good performance from this horse. I saw that. I noticed also that Timeform US sort of had that pace rating color-coded blue. I don't know. I mean, this horse did get clear around the turn. I thought he was moving right along in there, though. I thought this horse ran really well in that race. I can argue that he's the horse to beat in here, but I don't think he's necessarily, a complete standout against this field.
Oh, not at all. This is a pretty competitive group, and these horses are improving by leaps and bounds every day. They're so lightly raced. Now, the 3 Cut the Cord's going to have to improve off this race. A debut victory at Finger Lakes way back on September the 1st. But I like the moxie he's shown. Listen, he's going into Rochester, turning into the stretch. He's 4 wide, probably in the 7 path, and he's eventually going to wear these horses down with a nice kick. The runner-up came back to run second with a 55 buyer, then graduated with a 62, and then ran third in a little stakes race at Finger Lakes. You'll note that this horse is on his left lead for a long way. He just changes and surges by, listed as a vet scratch on October the 25th, and now missed over a month.
Yeah, it's been a while since that debut back on September 1st, so we'll see if he needs one. This is, in a lot of ways, I don't know that he's going to wind up being good enough to beat this field, because this is a pretty good field. In a lot of ways, this is my kind of horse, Dan. That figure to me is just not a figure that I care, but I think he ran a lot better than it may look on paper in that debut. Outpaced a little bit early in that race. He didn't have a ton of speed, but he did not allow himself to get outrun. You saw how wide he had to come to the stretch, and he kept coming through the lane. I thought this horse ran well. He has a little bit of pedigree behind him as well. He feels like he could take a big step forward here. He gets a trainer change. There's a lot to like about this. I'm using him at a big price.
And he might get a right pace setup as well if Timeform US is correct. And with a horse like the 4 Unique Unions in the race, the pace has to be fast. This is a very quick horse. Let's watch his first start against winners. Now, they asked him to go 7, Mike, and he just went too fast in the early portion of this race. That 22-3 opening quarter might have been a little bit too much. He still has a clear lead, but you can see him getting tired. He tries hard to finish third, and all this after a shoe repair in the paddock. Some things just didn't go right for Unique Unions. He's fast. You'll know him early.
Yeah, he ran pretty well in this race. I think I realized that his buyer declined significantly from the maiden win 2 starts back, but this horse actually ran well here. This pace was fast. He took pressure on the lead. He put that horse away around the turn, and he just got a little tired at the end going 7. But all in all, I thought he actually ran a pretty good race last time. His maiden win 2 back was an excellent performance. This is a dangerous horse in here.
Beret is the number 5 to me as the X factor in this race. I think he could be any kind. Let's watch his one and only start back on May the 21st. He was an early 2-year-old debuting for Michael Maker. He was bet down to even money. He didn't break very well. We see him easing to the outside, and he's going to grind out the tired Bali's Shade, who's also in this field. Now, the third place finisher in this race, the well-bred Coinage, would come back to win with a 60 buyer. That horse is now a graded stakes winner on the turf. He's been away for a long time. That's the major concern. But to 59 buyer for a 2-year-old first-time starter in May, that's not terrible.
No, it's not. And they expected him to run well that day, and he did. I guess at the end of the day, he did run well to get the job done. Dan, he's coming back with several bullets on his work tab, so it feels like all's in order for him to make his 3-year-old debut here. I don't know. He's around, what is he, 8-1 on the morning line? I guess if he's around that price, I won't argue with anybody who likes him. I can't say, I realize the second and third finishers both came back to win out of his debut. I can't say that was, my favorite maiden special weight race of last year.
Bullet workouts, though, leading up to this race, he must deal with the long layoff. Bali's Shade, we saw him make the front. He was run down by Berets in the stretch. He then had a little bit of a layoff, came back, won the slower division of state-bred maiden special weights on October the 22nd. And then on the notebook last time out, that's Senbai. He's pretty good. Bali's Shade might have been a bit overmatched in that race.
Yeah, he probably was. I mean, I think Senbai is probably a better horse than anything. As good as this field is, he's probably Senbai is probably better than anything in this field. And this horse just was no factor in that race. I didn't love his maiden win 2 back, but it was off of a pretty long layoff. So maybe he deserves the benefit of the doubt for that win. I don't know, Dan. I had a tough time warming up to him, especially with all the other speed in here.
Dawfuski Island, the 7, is a nice stalking gear and a nice outside attack post position. This horse faced Senbai in his last 2 races. He made a 3-wide bid on the turn last time out. For a brief instant, it looked like he was going to be in contention, and then he just floundered on his left lead for most of the stretch, and Senbai got away. I still think there's something here for this horse, and maybe he can work out the right trip.
Yeah, maybe he can. I didn't know what to do with him, to be honest. I mean, he's another one. It is class relief for him to get away from Senbai. So we'll see if he can just show up and run his best race. I mean, I thought this horse ran really well when he won his debut at Saratoga, and then he came back 2 starts later, and at the end of the day was really unlucky not to win that aspirant at Finger Lakes. Missed a terrible head bob there with an 83 buyer. I mean, either one of those races, his debut in that race, they'd make him really tough in here. His other 3 races, not so much.
A horse I'm very interested in is the number 8 Agility, second out winner for trainer Jorge Abreu. Let's watch that race going 6.5 at Aqueduct on December the 5th. He got right up close to the pace. He's taking over the lead now at the 3/16 pole. He's going to hold him off. A couple of next out winners came out of this race. Solid 72 buyer speed figure. I just think this is a horse that's getting better with each and every start, and he can have that nice tracking trip on the outside behind the speeds.
That's what I liked about him too. He's got plenty of early speed, but he seems pretty comfortable to maybe sit a little bit early, like he did in that maiden win last time. This is a horse who, I think it should be noted, ran really, really well first time out. That was a tough beat for this. They went 7 with him. He got locked up in a speed duel that day, put everybody away, and then 2 horses came from last and next to last and ran him down. This horse ran really well first time out, and he took a big step forward last time.
Just looks like a real hard trying horse. Very interesting for good connections. Doing it the right way, coming off a runner-up effort. Let's watch that race right now. This horse won a stake at Finger Lakes over Sloppy going 2 starts back. They ran him for the open 80 in here, and he's going to give Hagler at 1-5 a little bit of a scare. Hagler's finally going to get away from him in the final 1/8 of a mile, but this horse tried hard going the 7, Mike.
Yeah, he did. He ran well in here. You're right. He gave this heavy favorite a really big scare in the stretch there before settling for second. His win 2 starts back was a fine performance over a wet track. He's the only 2-time winner in the field, Dan. There are things to like about this horse. I think he has to improve to win, but there are things to like.
Top pick time for the Rego Park Stakes on Sunday at Aqueduct. You're going with agility. I have to use agility. I think G Munning, I'm curious to see what we're going to get from him if he can get to the front against this tougher field and take them all the way. It'll be tough with horses like Unique Unions and a couple of others in here. I want to use agility as well. He's your top pick. I think 9-2 on the morning line is very fair.
I do too. I mean, it feels like they're supposed to be going fast early in this race. So we'll see if agility can maybe just sit off of it a little bit and make a run through the stretch. I'm still kind of surprised at myself, Dan, that I didn't cut the cord on top. He's going to be a very big price in this race. I wound up putting him second, but I'm using that horse.
Maybe he'll be your Albany horse for our contest as we have them every single year. 8324 for Mike, 2879 for me. It's the Rego Park, the feature race at the Big A on Sunday. Good luck.